not a revolutionary framework, but I help agency owners in transition accomplish dramatic growth without them having to make all of the mistakes that I've made.
This is the Agency Profit Podcast, the podcast for agency owners that want to run a more profitable business that doesn't depend on them. Introducing your host, CEO and co-founder of Parakeeto, Marcel Pettipaw.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Agency Profit Podcast. I am joined today by a 20-year agency vet, started his first agency in 97, spent the next 20 years building and exiting multiple businesses before transitioning to becoming a consultant and coach, where he's been helping over 100 agencies in the last 4 years grow from anywhere from 0 to 1, getting their first clients, all the way to exiting and selling the business. Tim Kilroy, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks so much. This is super fun.
I'm excited to have you. We got put in touch, and of course I started researching you and consuming some of your content, and I'm really excited about today's discussion. Before we dive in, though, I want to make sure you have a chance to, in your own words, explain what you do and who you serve.
So I work with agency owners who are in the midst of making changes. So I typically don't work with brand new agency owners, and that's mostly my fault. I can't slow down enough to sort of explain things. But what we really do as an organization, we create a individualized frameworks so that agency owners can make better decisions, make those decisions in the right sequence, so that they experience growth that is significantly more than, and significantly higher and faster than they would have been able to do it on their own.
Tim, I want to dig into two things today that I think are particularly interesting in your perspective. You have a wealth of knowledge that I want to tap into today. 20 years of experience running.
Yeah, so you're going to say I'm old. It's okay.
Wisdom, my friend. 5 more coaching agencies. You've seen the inside of a lot of businesses. There's one framework that I think is worth sharing, and I think will prove as a good reference point for today's episode, which I love. It's your 4 W's model. I'd love to quickly go through that so the audience is in tune with what that is. What are the 4 W's? Why are they important? Yeah,
so before we tell you what the 4 W's are, let me tell you why they exist. This is essentially a really simple decision-making framework. So any decision you're thinking about, if it enhances one of your answers to the 4 W's, you should do it. If it doesn't, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't do it, but you probably need to think about it a whole lot more. So this is just really, if you can't draw a bright line between what you want to do and one of these answers, it bears more consideration. So the 4 W's are amazingly simple, and they help everything from customer acquisition through acquisition. And so who do we serve? What do we do? What's in it for my client? And why me or why us? Why should we be hired? And the reason why these are they seem like really simple questions. Right, so who do we serve? And people will say things like, I serve small businesses, and that's great, that's awesome, but as we just talked about, that's 97% of businesses. What makes you relevant to any of them? If you're trying to serve all of them, if you're trying to serve everyone, you're effectively serving no one. And so as you think about your service and your offerings and the kind of tools you invest in, the kind of people you invest in, do they help you sharpen the definition of who you serve? If not, then you probably need to carefully consider, should I, this is a perfect example, an agency that I bought a while ago. We do lead gen for SaaS and agencies. And most of our clients are sort of, VP of biz dev or founders who are looking to grow, not necessarily rapidly, but grow through quality engagement. And our clients are really very sophisticated about marketing and business development. So as I'm thinking about the people that I need to hire for this lead gen agency, I could go cheap and hire a bunch of folks from the Philippines to do this stuff. But that doesn't help me serve the people that I need to serve, because I need somebody who has significant experience and significant awareness of what's happening in a particular market. So just who do we serve? That informs my hiring. And so it's really simple. Who do we serve? What do we do? So, and what do we do, by the way, is not something that you answer like we do paid search or we do lead gen. You want to talk about the impacts that you have on your business. We help companies grow through making client acquisition easy, or we help companies grow by increasing their profitability, or we help companies grow by, creating a great recruiting pipeline. Whatever it happens to be, it's not just about a single metric or the thing that you do. Typically, you are helping your company accomplish a goal. And as an addendum to the 4 Ws, we also have our clients answer this. Create their big, hairy, scary marketing statement, which it's not my framework. I stole it, but basically, we help company type accomplish desirable thing without having to do undesirable thing. Not a revolutionary framework, but I help agency owners in transition accomplish dramatic growth without them having to make all of the mistakes that I've made.
So we've got who do we serve?
Yep.
That's the first W.
Yep.
Who. And really what we're saying there is, I think this is I want to double click on that for just a moment, because we've talked about this a lot on the show. I think people get far too obsessed with the semantics of a question like that. It doesn't even really matter who you serve. It matters what problem you solve. And then you're working backwards from the problem to say who has that problem.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's the first W, right? Is the who. Who are we adding value to because there's a problem that gets solved? Yep. And the second one is what do we do, which is really how do we solve that problem in a way that we can clearly articulate. Then we go into the next W. What is that?
What's in it for my client or prospect? As marketers, as agency owners, you get very excited about the stuff that you do. If you build websites, you can understand the intrinsic value of image compression as a way to accelerate page load speed. And that is awesome, but nobody cares at all, in any way, in any shape. What they care about is something like, my clients are going to have a great experience when they come to my website. That's what they care about. They don't care about about image compression. So you need to understand not the things that you do, because that's just a laundry list of tasks. You need to understand the impact of those tasks, of those things, of that expertise that you have on your client. And so what's in it for them? By the way, this is also a big part of thinking about what you do as service. And I intentionally phrased the first question as whom do you serve? Because an agency is a service business, and there is an element of serving, sort of helping people accomplish goals that maybe, frankly, don't have a whole lot to do with you. Their business growth, their success, depending upon your business model, may or may not have any impact on your business success. But because you are choosing this model of service, you need to know that you're serving people. Therefore, being able to show them the impact of that service is really important. So that what's in it for them is really crucial, because you need to be able to show that you understand your prospect or client business.
Excellent. So we've got number one, who do I serve? What problem am I solving? Number two, how do I serve them? Or what do I do? Which is how do I solve that problem? The third W being what's in it for them? What benefits will my client tangibly achieve through the things that I'm doing? And finally, why me? Why am I the best in the world at this thing? Let's unpack that one, Tim.
I can tell you by the time we get to this question, almost every agency owner that I have ever worked with says, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. we do Facebook ads. 1 million people do Facebook ads. Well, that's cool, but you've got to figure out why you are right for the people that you serve. And I want to throw a related concept at everybody. So many people in the performance marketing world are focused on return on ad spend or return on investment. I want to throw a new metric at you: return on understanding. So the more deeply you can understand your client's business, the better return that you are going to get on your relationship with them, and vice versa, their relationship with you. And the reason for that is because you understand their business, their stressors, their business model, their wrinkles, their fears, their opportunities. And the more deeply you can understand that, that's why because you understand them. And so really focusing on how the stuff that you do really impacts your client and how you can contextualize all of the opportunity that you see into a way that's meaningful for the client, that's why and that's really, really meaningful. As a matter of fact, I think the why me part of it is arguably the most important thing to be answered.
Hey, it's Marcel here, and I want to take a moment to thank you for being a loyal listener of the show. If you're enjoying today's episode, then I want to encourage you to subscribe so you never miss another episode, and be sure to check out some of the other amazing free resources we have at parakeeto.com to help you improve your agency's profitability. We have lots of other content just like this episode, including other detailed blog posts on some of the key topics, and free downloadable resources like the Agency Profitability Toolkit, which has helped hundreds of agencies improve their profitability with checklists, templates, and free training videos to help you install the Agency Profitability Flywheel all on your own. So if you're interested in grabbing that, head over to parakeeto.com and check the show notes as well. So with that, I want to thank you again for tuning in. I'll let you get back to the episode. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. There's a saying a mentor of mine likes to say. He goes, when you can describe your customers' pain better than they can, that's when you win. You get their attention. It's the ultimate hook. When you can describe what they're going through in a way that they haven't been able to do before, you immediately have their attention. Right. And I think you're so right. That understanding is what clearly sets you apart, because to the client, it all comes down to risk aversion, right? Like, who is most likely to get me to this outcome? And if you can clearly articulate that you deeply understand their position, what they're going through, then that dramatically impacts the level of trust that they have that you're going to be able to get them to the outcome that they want. Big nuggets on this one. 4 W's, Tim. So I want to transition into the next kind of part of this show. And I wanted to cover the 4 W's because I think we'll be referencing them quite a bit. Yeah. And it reinforces a lot of things that we've covered various times throughout the show in different parts. I love that mental model. Let's talk about transitions. One of the things that we had discussed briefly coming into the show here was that agency owners have to go through very distinct transitions through the life cycle of their business. And this is something that I have seen repeatedly. The challenges that an agency has at 8 people and what they have at 20 to 25, what they have around 50, there's all these very specific, very observable patterns and where they get stuck and why they get stuck. I want to unpack with you what those kind of key sticking points, those key transitions that you've observed over the years have been.
Yeah. So the scenario that where these problems occur the most frequently are when you have a founder, an agency founder, who is a founder because they're good at something. They're good at Facebook ads or good at SEO or whatever, and they've got some sort of expertise. And so they think they're starting an agency. Right? That's what they call themselves. It's Tim's agency. Great. As it turns out, they're not starting an agency. They're consulting. And so they're doing the thing that they know how to do really well for other people. So instead of doing it for a single employer, they're doing it for multiple employers. Great. And that is a fantastic model. Some people call it freelancing. And at some point, you get enough work as a freelancer, as a sort of super freelancer, that you think like, oh, holy moly, I need some help. So then you add some people who do the less sexy parts of what you do. Great. But it's still all focused on you. And the helpers are probably behind the scenes and not doing anything that's client facing. And this is where many, many, many agencies get stuck. Because the founder or the head of the company they feel like nobody else can serve their customers the way that they do. That they have to be the client contact. They've got to be, they have to approve all the work before it goes out the door. And this is a place where people end up, where they end up hating their agency because it's a job that just takes from you. It never gives back. And so you get worn down, worn out, and then you're thinking, and then when things go wrong, you think, well, my team is stupid or my customers are dumb or whatever. And when people get to that point, they often raise their hands. And it might be somewhere between, say, $20,000 and $30,000 a month in revenue. And, their life might be pretty good, but, they're thinking like this business sucks. And they need the perspective. They need the understanding that that the agency isn't about them. And this is the mantra of my earlier stage group coaching, which is the job of an agency CEO is not to create happy clients, but rather to create teams and systems that create happy clients. And this is a huge piece of work that it's sort of the ultimate filter. Like if you learn that lesson, that as a CEO, you are supposed to create teams and systems that create happy clients, then you can grow. But if you fight against that learning, then you're going to stop growing. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with stopping there. Like you can build a business that pays you really well, delivers great value for your clients, and you are completely happy doing the work all the time. Can't take a vacation. There's a lot of people for whom like that is the definition of a success. And if that's you, awesome. Don't do anything. Because the next step you have to take beyond that changes what you do. Because when you realize that your job is to create teams and systems that create happy clients, you are no longer the best doer of whatever it is you do. You have to turn into the leader, organizer, and protector of the doers of what you do. So it doesn't. So at this next stage where you are creating teams and systems, it's helpful if you understand the intricacies of what your team does, but not necessary. Because you are taking that step into where the organization is your project, not the client work. And lots of people can't make that transition, and it's okay. But then at some point, after you have created a team and you start to grow, your job changes again. And this has probably happened somewhere around $100,000 or $150,000 a month in revenue, where your agency can probably run on its own. Like if you took a month off and your team's doing well, great. Your agency may not grow, but it's not going to fall apart because you've got good teams and systems. And when you hit that point, a lot of people are like, oh, really bored, don't know what to do, and they start causing trouble. Like they jump back into the work, or they decide to start a course, or they do some other thing, and or they open up an e-commerce store, or they decide that they're all in on crypto or whatever, and so they jump from the thing that is working because they don't have a mental model of what's next. So once you've got teams and systems in place, well, what happens? Well, what happens, in order to get bigger, you actually have to install another layer of management. And so your job ceases to be creating teams and systems, but your job then becomes focusing on training and growing managers who can create teams and systems. So every step along the way, you are abstracting further and further away from the work. But what's amazing is the further away you get from the work, if you think about that, being that right in front of the customer, like just behind the account manager is a fulcrum. And the further you are away from dealing with the customer on a day-to-day basis, the longer your lever is. So the greater your impact can be on your organization, the further you are away from the day-to-day work of your organization. And so, regardless of how you feel about him, Elon Musk, he's a little bit of a control freak, just a little bit, but, he's not pushing the button that says, make a car, right? That's not his job. His job is to think about money and team and regulations and opportunity and all of this other stuff that have actually nothing to do with getting a car off a production line. And the reason he's able to do all that stuff is because he realized, the value of me pushing the button that says make car is unbelievably low, because to tell you the truth, if it's just pushing a button, he can't push it any better than anybody else. So those are things that are kind of outcome independent. So it doesn't matter who pushes the button, and the same thing's going to pop out the other side.
Tim, we could talk for a very long time.
We could.
Unfortunately, we don't have a very long time today, but we've covered, I think, some very important things. We've talked about the 4 Ws and how those are kind of foundational to setting the direction for an agency, and really, I think, creating the context in which a lot of these kinds of systems that we've talked about that carry you through these sticking points can be built. There needs to be a certain amount of definition to the business in order for it to be organized enough to support metrics and reporting and process and delegation, right, and scaling of value in an organization. And then we've talked about the key sticking points that you see transitioning from a solo founder to basically a super freelancer into a business owner and building out a management team. So with all of that, if anyone wants to go deeper into your world, consume more of your content, and learn more about what you do, where should they go look for you after today's episode?
Most of my content pops up on LinkedIn. So it's LinkedIn/in/Tim Kilroy. Or you can find me at timkilroy.com. I'm not hard to find. I'm, a little bit of an, maybe it's a childhood trauma or something, but I love attention. So, I try not.
Wherever you're listening to this, we'll put links to Tim's social and his website, of course, in the show notes, so you can just scroll down and find more information about him. With that, Tim, I want to thank you so much for making time for us today. This was a great conversation, and hopefully we'll get to do this again sometime.
This was super fun. Thanks so much.
Well, that's all for today's episode, but it doesn't have to be the end of your learning journey. Make sure you subscribe to our show so you never miss another episode. And if you want to get access to more great resources, be sure to check out parakeeto.com, where we've got tons of other free resources, including the Agency Profitability Toolkit, which is loaded with templates, checklists, and training videos to help you improve your agency's profitability fast. And of course, if you like the show, it would really help us out if you could leave us a review and share this with someone else who you think might get value, so you can help us serve more people. So with that, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode.